Hello, my name is Michael, and I obsess. I come across something that grabs me and I consume until I can't take anymore, and then I'm on to the next. Some obsessions last a week, others a lifetime. It is my intention to explore these obsessions with you as they occur while the passion is hot. Welcome to Eclectic Obsessions. I'd like to welcome you back to episode 2 of our podcast on podcasts. Now let's get on with the show. Smodcast. Smodcast is a weekly podcast featuring filmmaker Kevin Smith and his longtime producing partner Scott Mosier, although guests are occasionally featured. Released weekly, the episodes are generally 1 hour in length and feature Smith and Mosier discussing current events and other non-sequitur topics.
You want a podcast? I got a smodcast. You want a podcast? I got a smodcast. You want a podcast? I got a smodcast. You wanna, do you want a podcast? Do you want a show? Do you get your laughs from computer radio with this bro, Scotty Mo? It's about time to lose your shit. Everybody's progress clips for that legend, Kevin Smith.
Welcome to Smodcast. I'm Kevin Smith.
Scott Mosier.
How you doing, man? It's been a while. It's been
good.
a while. I have not really gone out to the movies much this summer because I've been working.
Yep.
But there's one movie that came out this summer that definitely, I know, aside from Up, that you and I have seen.
Yes.
And probably should talk about.
Yeah.
Based on your world-renowned affection for the subject at hand.
Yes.
Listen to that. Jackie knows it's coming. She's like, they're going to talk about Harry Scotter again.
I hate fucking magic.
I don't believe in it. Harry Potter and what was it called?
Harry Potter and oh my god, now I'm like,
isn't it weird? It's like
it's not
Harry Potter.
The Deathly Hallows is the next one.
The Harry Potter and the half
Mudblood Party,
Half-Blood Prince. Thank you,
Yes.
Malcolm. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah.
Now I saw it and I dug it and I was into it every step of the way. And enjoying like the dopiness of you know, knowing what
Magic.
I know of magic, how beautiful magic can be, and no, but knowing that he winds up with Jenny Weasley and shit, so every like little moment we're like, oh, excuse me,
all the awkwardness,
you're like, one day he can be so awkward, man, he's gonna slip the fucking wand straight up the Weasley, and that's gonna be it. He's gonna be like fuckus. No, Harry. But so you see it, those moments like that, it was like
he's gonna really understand what magic is.
Totally. I'm like, dude, none of the you think Bertie Bott's is magic? Wait until you bust it in some woman's ass. It's amazing, or or even properly where it should go. Her anyway,
it's all good, Harry.
It's all good. Hey, Harry, my point is this: wherever it goes, that's where it goes. You know what I'm saying, man? As long as it goes, it goes.
As long as you get to go.
Harry, this is one thing. This is one activity you don't need a spell for, man. You just fucking need. So I guess you could grade good, Harry. I wonder if that's
there has to be
the book I want to read.
The book of dirty spells.
No, the fucking Harry Potter, the fucking pubescent years.
Yeah,
I know he spent most of his pubescence fighting Voldemort and.
But he had to it.
Come on, it's like that's a full school year, man. I know they all room together, but we are.
But it's all intimated too, also.
Totally,
where it's just like,
but just write it. Just be like, and then Harry and Ron
wake up in their own filth.
Yeah, they got they were drinking. What's the pumpkin juice they
butter beers?
They were drinking some butter beers and knocked back a few too many butter beers, and one just woke up, and the other was his dick. He was like, "Hey."
I don't really know if that's everyone's.
and then it was fucking Harry's dick was getting by Ron Weasley, and then Ron was like, "Forgeticus," and Harry forgot. Like, write about shit like that. Or just like, you know, when fucking Hermione gives her first awkward and,
Yeah.
but, you know, she's so about it. She freaks out because it's not perfect, starts crying, curses herself for being a mudblood. And Harry's like, it's cool. I'll show you how to do it. Here's pack some gilly weed in your mouth and you won't ever have to breathe. It'll come up for air. It's all good. I learned this little trick with Ron. She's like, what? And he's like, don't worry about it. It's all fine. We're
Forget
away
it,
at school. I learned that from Ron too. Motherfucker, forget it, kiss.
She's like, that's not a spell. You just can't just add
Harry, you're
Inicus.
the worst lover ever. Yeah, forget it, kiss.
You can't just add Inicus to the end of every
Oh
word.
my God, you're fucking Cho Chen in our bed. Forget a kiss. Big time forget a kiss.
Multiple forgetting.
Oh shit, forget a kiss is the best spell I ever learned. God bless Snape. Let's go over the story.
Okay.
So it starts with the war has begun, right? Like
The Ministry of
came
Magic.
back. Well, Voldemort, at the end of the last movie, Ralph Fiennes came back from the grave as the snake faced him. Voldemort, a.k.a. Tom Riddle.
Yes.
He is back.
Yeah, the kid was lying.
Yeah, like, hey, go figure. Harry Potter, one too many forget-a-guesses made us doubt him, but
I mean, we heard
that's clearly Ralph Fiennes.
we heard he was
trouble.
sucking his friend's dick, so we didn't believe him.
Hey, now I heard it was Ron f***ing him. What? Forget-a-kiss everyone.
Like, it doesn't work. It's not a real spell.
Yeah, I hate to tell you, Ron, but like, you know, you say forget a kiss and I pretend like I forgot a kiss, but you know, I just like you in my dick and then we pretend it never happened. Until you
It's called the down low, Ron. It's not a spell.
Down low a kiss, Ron. You get it? Jesus. Moving on. Kiss. You got it?
Yeah.
Deny a kiss. Just embraced.
Horror Etc. Podcast. The now defunct Horror Etc. podcast was an open discussion about all things horror. Hosted by Kingstown Ted and Anthony D.P. Mann, the show covered film topics by theme and genre with attention paid to the filmmakers, directors, and the state of the horror industry.
Horror Etc. podcast. It's coming for you.
Well, hey folks, welcome to the Horror Etc. podcast. This is episode number 23. As always, I am Tony.
And I'm Ted.
And Ted, this is an exciting episode, and I think it's important, especially for you, because this might be a portal to exorcise some of your recent demons, because, ladies and gentlemen, Ted has Frankenstein on the brain. Do you want to elaborate about the story you told me earlier today?
No, not really. I just...
I think you need to tell me, Ted. I think you need to tell everybody.
been taking in a lot of Frankenstein lately, and we recently discussed the classic Universal Draculas.
That's right, yes.
Today we're going to talk about the Universal Frankensteins.
Yes, that's right. And you've been doing your homework. You've been
Plowed
going through all of the films.
A pile of them.
Yeah.
With a few others sprinkled in, and it seems to have gotten to me because last night I had the most vivid dream I've had in years.
I've already heard this, but I need to hear it again.
Well,
and I want everybody
strange.
out there in podcast land to hear this, because this is great.
It's faded away quite a bit from this morning, but I woke up sitting on the couch with my coffee, and my wife said to me, well, you know, you were making a lot of noise last night, a lot of weird sounds, and I said, no, those weren't weird sounds. That was actually singing.
Singing.
Because I remembered it very vividly at that point. Yeah, I dreamt last night that I was in the stage production of Frankenstein. I was actually hosting the Oscars. The Oscars was structured as a stage play of Frankenstein.
Of course,
awards ceremony built in.
Was Billy Crystal in the cast?
No, it was all me. You know, I was singing numbers, and I had the stage, like the set design was fully fleshed out in my mind. There was wire work involved and everything. I don't know. It was very odd.
Was I in the show?
Absolutely not. Told you it was a quality production.
Oh,
anyhow, Frankenstein. Let's talk about
Hey,
Frankenstein.
this is great. And again, I think I shared this anecdote when we did the Dracula show a few weeks back. When I was a kid in elementary school, I remember having to score excellent grades on a report card, specifically so my parents would go out and buy me on VHS releases of Dracula, Lugosi's film, and of course Karloff's Frankenstein. And actually, it was Frankenstein that I got to first, and boy, that film left a lasting impact on me.
Well, we discussed Dracula at length. Frankenstein was actually my favorite of the two. I guess you could say the classic films. Yeah, Frankenstein has always left a very memorable impression on me. I love the movie. I could watch it over and over again. We're covering a lot of, I guess, film history here, aren't we?
We certainly are. Yeah.
We're going to get back to contemporary times, but let's just step back and discuss Universal's Frankenstein franchise. Once again, this is tying to my acquisition, where I was able to get the Legacy box sets.
Yeah, we know the story, Ted.
Thank you. You don't want to rehash my deal of the century again and rub your nose in it again.
Now, let's start with the very beginning. We the original 1931 talkie production of Frankenstein, directed by James Whale, and starring Colin Clive, Edward von Sloan, and Boris Karloff as the monster.
Right, and it is in fact Frankenstein's monster. Let's not forget.
That's right.
Now, I should also say, in the midst of all of these films, I actually did reread the original Mary Shelley's novel.
Good for you.
In the midst of all this. And what's fascinating is how much these films deviate from the original story. It's amazing. I guess if you looked at the first 2 or 3 films and patched them together, you get most of the original story.
That's right, you do.
But in the 1931 version, it's just basically selected highlights.
Well, Universal created, such a specific air and version of the Frankenstein story that they maintain certain copyrights on the creation of the creature, etc., and especially the design of the creature. And what happened was back in further on in the 50s and 60s and 70s, when other studios wanted to do productions of Frankenstein, they needed to do something different than what Universal had done, specifically Hammer. So what they did is they went back to Mary Shelley's book.
Yeah, well, there certainly was a different story to tell there because it wasn't touched on a whole lot in these classic versions.
Now, this film came out in the later part of 1931, the same year that Lugosi's Dracula hit the screen, and initially, and I've actually seen poster art confirming this, initially Lugosi was tapped to play the monster, but he decided at this point, because he had made all the young ladies swoon. If you want to frighten them, give them Frankenstein. If you want to make them swoon, give them Dracula.
It might have been a misstep on his part.
It was.
Pass over the role.
He decided that he didn't want to have his visage hidden under the tenuous makeup and passed on it. But luckily,
it gave Boris Karloff the opportunity to launch his career,
which is interesting because Karloff, again, like Lugosi, had a varied background in silent film and some talkies. Karloff has one of the most beautiful speaking voices you're ever going to hear.
Not in this film.
Well, that's the thing. He doesn't. His creature speaks through his eyes, through his body movement, through his actions, through his grunts, and delivers so much humanity. There have been other actors in the Universal catalog to play the Frankenstein monster, but no one could translate the sentiments of the creature as well as Karloff.
He played a very sympathetic role, that's for sure, and he did convey a lot. The dawn of the talkie era, yet he, without using his voice in any way, he was able to convey his performance very well. Well, I guess we'll start right off at the beginning. We get a nice little introductory scene.
Yes.
Was this with the original production? Was this added on later? I'm not sure.
No, I believe it was
Edward von Sloan
as Dr. Baldwin.
But out of character here, comes out and introduces the film to the viewing audience.
How do you do? Mr. Carl Lemley feels it would be a little unkind to present this picture without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, we've warned you.
The Grady's. The Grady's, the Great 80s Movie Debate podcast, features a panel of movie fanatics born and raised in the 80s. Each episode features a beloved classic 80s movie. The film is rewatched and reviewed to see if it still holds up today in a lively and entertaining debate.
Hello and welcome to The Greaties, the great 80s movie debate, where we see if the movies of the 1980s still hold up today. If you're a child of the 80s, a fan of classic films, or just a movie geek, you've come to the right place. The focus of today's podcast is 1984's Bachelor Party, directed by Neil Israel and starring Tom Hanks, Adrian Zmed, Tawny Katane, and Wendy Jo Sperber. My name is Dave. Our illustrious panel of 80s experts includes Christy.
A strange right in my hand.
Matt.
I just bet my on Christy's movie pick, and I shook on it.
And Chris.
What are you, nuts? Look at my...
We like to start every show by having each panelist reflect on their past experience with the movie we're discussing so we can see where everyone is coming from. So, Christy, what is your history with Bachelor Party?
No way in a blue friggin' hell I would ever have watched this movie when it first came out, nor did I ever. Tonight was the first time I saw it, and the last.
That's a shame.
What about you, Matt?
I saw this not in the theaters, on video, probably, 2 or 3 years later. Probably rented it with a couple friends or whatnot, but it was like one of those ones where I don't think I was quite 17 yet, so we managed to fool the guy at Video Connection and actually rent it without proper ID.
Ooh. Video Connection.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Well, Chris, you're probably the fan amongst all of us. Let's hear it.
My mother... No, I'm kidding. I know for a fact that I did not see this in theaters, but I know it was like a cable thing. And I remember when I did see it for the first time, was Bosom Buddies on yet?
Bosom Buddies was already off.
Okay, maybe I liked Tom Hanks from the show and I wanted to see this movie. I think after I watched it, I remember taping it on VHS.
Bosom Buddies was 80 to 82.
Okay, all right.
Well, I had never seen this either until about a year ago, but I only saw it really because of Chris. He quotes this movie all the time.
I do.
And I never had any idea what he was talking about. I love Tom Hanks, and like you, saw Bosom Buddies, and probably had seen just about everything he had ever done, but I never saw this till like a year ago. So I'm kind of in the same boat as Christy. I'm only going to view this as an adult viewing this. I can't grade it a year ago and today. I only saw this because of Chris and his nonstop quoting of this.
Look, I don't even remember quoting it as much as you say I do.
You do. You would talk about it. Remember that Bachelor Party? And I'd be like, no, I never saw it.
What are you, nuts?
Yeah, that's one of your big
Look at my... That's a great line.
Well,
you don't quote many lines, but you do quote that one often.
Yes.
I do.
We're not going to get into like a serious plot discussion of Bachelor Party because there really isn't a plot.
Oh, thank God.
But I was wondering, and our friend Tim, who is on from time to time, has what he calls the 10 chuckle rule.
Oh,
and
God.
It's actually a pretty good rule to judge comedies on. If you chuckle 10 times, it's a good movie.
It's a good movie. It's funny.
So I guess my question is, maybe what are some of your favorite scenes, and did you chuckle 10 times?
Who's going first?
Go ahead.
Wow.
I guarantee he chuckled more than 10 times. I guarantee it's mostly how Tom Hanks acts and when he dances on the piano and does a little dance and jumps on the couch. I laugh. The whole trainee guy standing up. I laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I laugh and all. The guy across the hotel with the dart gun. What's that? I don't know. How about that? Still
Crossbow?
Cracks me up. The falling down. They both kiss it. Cracks me up.
So even watching it this time,
I was laughing a lot. Yeah. And I'll have you tell a story about tennis.
Oh, that tennis scene is the funniest scene, I think, in the movie. They're playing tennis, and he doesn't even give a shit about the game, and he just wails it over the fence.
Yeah.
Because every time you play tennis with Chris, that's exactly what he does. And you can't play the game. You serve it to, and he hits it over the fence, and you're like, oh, that's funny. Serve him the next one, he hits it over the
and we only have 3 balls, and that's it,
I'll go get the balls.
That's a great scene. I love this movie.
All right. Well, it sounds like Matt and Christy are
quiet.
A little.
No, I know I chuckled 10 times. I'll say that. I just can't tell you as many specific scenes as Chris just did. I know the last chuckle I really remember was when everyone left the room and the piano just fell over. I thought that made me laugh.
Yeah.
I know I laughed at the Porsche because when I saw the KC lights on the Porsche, that was pretty funny.
After the guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I laughed 10 times at least. I don't have the specific notes of when I did. I don't have notes of smiley faces on my list.
I have smiley faces. Please.
And the hot dog scene is a classic.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
History right there.
She wouldn't let go. She kept yanking on it. That was funny. Oh, and the sound effects in the scene right before that, where they meet him, that was hilarious.
And it slaps on the tray.
Yep.
What about you, Krista? You're awful quiet over there.
I probably didn't chuckle 10 times.
No?
Maybe 4 or 5. And I do believe at one point I looked at Matt and said, there is not a single character I like in this entire movie.
Zmed?
No.
American Ninja?
No, not even American Ninja.
It surprises me that you say this because
normally this would be my kind of movie.
Well, no, like you like Porky's,
yes,
which I don't know. I mean, there are similarities between these movies. It's a stupid, sex, dirty jokes, and each guy has their own little niche.
I think it's because I hold Tom Hanks to a higher standard, and it's hard to remember that he came from this.
True.
Because he has been so much funnier. I mean, to watch him in Big or anything else, I mean, it was kind of the one character that drove me absolutely berserk, and every time he was on the freaking screen, I was like, oh god, was the mechanic friend,
Rudy.
I was like, calm the down. I just wanted to slap him down.
Drugs, man.
Women. That guy was funny.
He was hysterical.
God, he's kind of like Animal from the Muppets. How do you not like that?
Because Animal's at least presentable.
Oh.
It's oil.
I didn't quite hate this movie. Quite. But it's not something I would watch again.
Ever.
I would.
Ever.
Well,
on a dare.
Dumb People Town. It's as much an exploration as it is a celebration of dumb people doing dumb things. Daniel Van Kirk rustles up the stories and riffs on their details with the Sklar brothers and a hilarious, well-known upper-coming comedy guest.
Dan and Ran and Jay will share tales of folks so unaware they lack in grace and sometimes choose the life they choose will make the news. Breaking down each epic fail in Florida, there's half-price bail. I'm happy to say they couldn't make this up. So listen to our podcast jam with co-host Arm and Dan. Benders, don't be a jerk, cause when the music hits, the funny hits, and we are gonna take you down. Stick around. Make a sound, hunker down, it's Dumb People Town.
Hey, Townies, welcome to another episode of Dumb People Town. Population you. Population Al. Weird Al Yankovic. Weird Al Yankovic. Or just Al Yankovic.
However you like to do that.
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, thanks for asking. So sweet.
We have for many years, and I want you to get on board with this, too.
Okay.
We have, and we want to start a campaign.
We've tried every year to launch a campaign to get you
to be the
perform at
Super Bowl halftime show.
Oh, that's been kind of floating around a little bit. I don't think you're the only one who's doing it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Why? It should.
I don't think I'm going to be in the NFL shortlist. I don't know. I think it goes down about 3,000 spots. Then there's Millie Vanilli, then me.
No,
I think only Millie is alive at this point. So,
but we're gonna jack you up the list. We're gonna see what we can do to try and
so
make that
everybody
happen.
listening here, just start a hashtag.
Please jack me up.
Weird Al Super Bowl halftime show. Let's start that hashtag. Well, we are in Dumb People Town, and I know that throughout the years, and I think this is why you are uniquely engineered for this show, you have loved to, in the way that we love to, it's like we're trying to understand dumb behavior.
Yes.
Stupid behavior.
Very important.
And it feels like dumb's getting louder or prouder right now.
I would say so.
Right?
I concur.
Is there more dumb? What do you think? Is there more dumb out in the world, or we're just hearing more about it?
We are devolving. No, we are definitely getting dumber. without question.
How do we fight back? We fight back with comedy. We fight back with the only way we know how. And so our great fans send us these wonderful stories. To Dan, we've never heard them. You've never heard them. And we would like to go through one if that's possible with you right now.
I think that would be appropriate at this point.
Okay.
All right, Dan.
You ready for this?
Yes.
Accusations of illegal strip club inside home. Complete misunderstanding. That's also in quotes. Those
Honey,
last 2 words.
it's not a strip club.
what you
It's just
think it
some
is.
friends.
I know.
Doesn't every living room have a pole? They brought it over and to teach us exercise.
Now, when you say complete understanding, does that mean that the understanding wasn't complete until they said that?
Did I misread it? I'm sorry. Complete misunderstanding.
Oh, okay.
I might have said it wrong.
Okay.
Authorities raided a man's rural Iredell County home Friday after they said it was being used as an illegal adult entertainment club.
Now, when you say they rated it, it was like on a scale of 5 or a scale of 10?
I give it a 3. I mean, the buffet was pretty good.
That would be great if cops yelped places after
I
they
give it
busted
2
them.
out of 5 tassels.
What's your end game there? That's never going to go well.
No.
Ever. If it becomes popular, it's going to get shut down.
If
it
it
doesn't
doesn't-
become popular, you fail.
So on a drunken night, he turns to 2 people who will dance there. And
Sure.
he knows his friends there. And he's like, why don't we just have the strip club here? That's how it started.
You know, whenever I buy real estate, I make sure it's already zoned to be a strip club.
Thank you.
Just in case,
By the
you
way,
never know.
You may never
You may
need
never
it.
use it.
Never
But
use
just,
it.
it's good for resale value.
How far are we away from an elementary school? Let's make sure we're within, outside the limits so we can do what we want.
Officials said the owner and operator, David Yates Jr. You can almost hear the North Carolina dialect in it.
David
Yates in quotes?
Yates.
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 David Yates. You
Call
get
me-
down here right now.
Call me DY, buddy.
DY
Jr.
Jr. Just call me Jr.
Was the only person inside the home when officers found weapons, marijuana, liquor, and malt beverages. Why do you have to be so specific about the malt beverages?
Well, you know, it's that type of strip club. That type of home strip club.
Chocolate malts, you know.
David Yates Jr. was the only person there when everything got confiscated, including the malt beverages. Eyewitness news reporter Glenn Counts was given a tour of the house on Monday by Yates. That's how you know, too, that you think you are definitely in the right.
Yeah.
When you've been raided by the cops and you tell the news, let's walk around it.
Right,
Come on in.
This is where we had this VIP section
You
right
tell
over
me
here.
if anything in this garage looks professional. Eyewitness reporter, that's Glenn Counts, was given a tour of the house on Monday by Yates and saw the area where the stripper pole was removed, as well as lockers for the young women to use. Multiple law enforcement agencies raided this Buster's Strip Club. If you've named it, you're going to get caught. Don't name it.
Don't buy a neon
Just
sign
say,
either.
come back to my house. We're having a party on
Busters.
Bethesda Road in Statesville, and said that they found drugs, all that other stuff.
By the way, you could come up with so many better names than Buster's Strip Club.
Yeah, call it
So
Busties at
Yes!
least. Just put a Y on there.
Pole
Get rid of that
position.
ERS. The investigation began after community members sent in anonymous complaints. The club was found in a garage behind the home.
There you go.
Yates said he charged a $5 admission for the only reason to help pay the power bill.
What kind of complaints would they have? Not enough lockers.
Yeah, they're very complaints. Their shrimp cocktail sucks.
No ramp for wheelchairs.
Very
like
few
ADA
options
violations
in the buffet. Someone sent OSHA over
Ton
there.
of OSHA violations.
It's been 7 hours since our last injury.
Yeah. Employees are not washing hands.
This is from a neighbor. Anytime you're having drinking and stripping, you're going to have shooting and fighting. Well, I don't know.
That's
that.
a huge.
Come on.
By the way, that is a huge.
You can drink
gigantic
and strip without shooting anybody. I want to live in a world where you can drink and strip
stripping.
without shooting or fighting anyone. You don't need stuff like that, not here around this neighborhood. I would beg to differ with this neighbor, because if it became that successful, maybe the neighborhood did need it.
There was a vacuum that he filled.
Yes.
That's right.
And why are you calling a rural area a neighborhood?
Yeah.
There's nothing neighborhoody about that.
That's right.
After approaching Channel 9's cameras, Yates declined an on-camera interview, but said the whole ordeal is a misunderstanding and that the pole inside what he called his man cave, ready for this excuse?
I cannot wait.
The pole was only being used by his wife and daughter for exercise.
Oh,
Now,
well, of
I
course.
believe that.
My wife likes to drink when she does her pole dancing.
And anytime you're going to have my
Exercise.
wife exercise, you're going to have drinking and shooting. That's just how it goes.
Between wife and daughter.
Ugh. All of a sudden in the article, they cut to this exterior photo of Mr.
garage?
Yates,
Of the garage.
of Mr. Yates' house, and there's just an element that's like, what new story are we starting? Ready?
Okay.
There's just a hearse. There's just a hearse
in front of his
just
house.
a hearse out in front of
and
his
by
house.
the way, not parked. A hearse not parked in the driveway.
No, it is on the lawn.
It is on the lawn.
Up to the drive. He's pulled up to the stoop.
That just screams strip club.
Yes.
Okay, how am I going to know which strip club we're talking about? When you just look for a hearse.
When you see the hearse, you come around back.
Film Sack. Join Scott, Brian, Randy, and Brian each and every week as they tackle a gem of a film from the archives of movie history and rip it apart on the air.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. This is Film Sack. Oh, sure.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Film Sack, episode 336. The number was wrong last week. I apologize for that. I'm Scott Johnson, and this is Film Sack, mining the very depths of film entertainment for all mankind. Joining me today, Brian Dreams, am I right? Dunaway.
Right? Don't fall asleep. Oh, hi. That's right, Your Honor. I was on Elm Street just trying to sell my new invention, the finger knife glove, when all these parents start coming at me. What's that, Your Honor? You like my ugly sweater? Well, thank you. I like your robe. Anywho, you see, my finger knife glove is going to revolutionize the cutlery industry. It's going to do for the kitchen what indoor plumbing did for shitting. Oh, and if that doesn't excite Your Honor and the jury, I have a great idea for some scissor hands. What's that? Not guilty. Well, thank you, Your Honor. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Also with us, Randy. Glenn's dad is a super dick Jordan.
Aloha, Scott, Brian, I have a little song for you. Everybody chant along. 1, 2, there's a hole in the roof. 3, 4, point your t's north. 5, 6, good teacher. 7, 8, Minority Report was great. 9, 10, help, it's happening.
Well done.
That was great.
Yeah, maybe my favorite Randy opening ever. Also with us, and finally, Brian. He likes to down a bottle of vodka in the hallway Ibit.
You want to know who Freddy Krueger was, Nancy? He was a filthy child murderer that killed at least 20 kids in the neighborhood. He worked at the local tanning salon. At least that's how I met him. He showed me all the places in a house that I could stash nondescript liquor bottles, like the linen closet, the china cabinet, under the couch. Then he got caught by the authorities, sent to jail, and went to court. The lawyers got fat, the judge got famous, I got drunker and learned how to apply more tanning spray, and in the end someone forgot to sign something somewhere, and they ended up making a whole bunch of sequels without Wes Craven.
You may all be wondering why we haven't really said the name so much. It's because Scott Fletcher wants to tell you, so here you go.
A Nightmare on Elm Street. Several people are hunted by a cruel serial killer who kills his victims in their dreams. While the survivors are trying to find the reason for being chosen, the murderer won't lose any chance to kill them as soon as they fall asleep.
Robert Englund cut himself the first time he tried on the hand, so there's that.
It was actually dangerous?
Yeah, it actually cut him.
They had three, according to the documentary, they had three knives. One was plastic, or 3 gloves. One had plastic blades, one had non-sharp metal blades, and then one actually did have sharp metal blades that they would use when they needed to cut through something.
Mm-hmm. It's not a very effective weapon, but it's so iconic now. It's just so cool.
I feel like this is the best spot to get into the, well, if there's magic in this universe, I feel like the fingers, which are the thing you remember the most, right? Mm-hmm. Like that freaking knife fingers, they have to be magic. We have to just agree. There is something supernatural about that. So that then when they cut through a wall, you're like, okay, that makes total sense. It's really scary.
I swear to God, when I watched this, and I've seen it a couple times since the 80s, I had forgotten that you really get not just the origin story, but the Freddy making his glove thing at the very beginning during the opening credits. I completely forgot that.
Yeah.
If I get to the end of this movie and I'm I'm just like, oh, okay, it's over. I don't think it matters if there was a twist, if there was a question, because I didn't have the question in mind on this viewing at all.
Yeah, but it was
like,
good.
Oh, okay,
it's still good to see Bronzer get pulled through the door like that. That was
It
pretty
totally
great.
is. That is a great. It's such a great effect.
Yeah,
It's
It
great.
is
No,
the
I-
worst.
I-
Right through the little window.
I totally get it, but it's like this is the ending. I want to explain the ending of this film so you understand. Everything's over. Everything's fine. We're kind of past the problem. Girl goes to get in the car. Freddy Krueger is the car.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the top is
Freddy-
striped colors.
Right. Freddy Krueger, the car drives off, and then Freddy Krueger, who's also in the house, murders mom. That's it. That's all I've got. Okay?
No, that's how it ends.
So-
I feel like it's effective visually for sure, but it is a lazy ending. It's an ending that says you thought you were out, but you rolled, you know, and then roll credits. I hate it.
Hello from the Magic Tavern. The podcast is set in the fictional world of Foon, a magical realm where Arnie Niekamp is trapped after falling through a dimensional rift behind a Burger King in Chicago. Niekamp and his co-hosts, a wizard named Usador the Blue and a shapeshifter named Chunt, interview various magical creatures at the Vermilion Minotaur Tavern.
Warning! The following podcast should not be taken as scientific evidence of the existence of other worlds. So don't go mucking around looking into multidimensional travel methods, because you'll just end up doing more damage to the barriers between worlds than you would if it were real, which it's not. Stop talking.
Hello from the Magic Tavern, a weekly podcast from the magical land of Foon. I'm your host, Arnie Niekamp. If you've never listened to the podcast before, this is what's going on. About a year and a half ago, I fell through a dimensional portal behind a Burger King in Chicago into the magical, fantastical land of Foon. Luckily, I'm still getting a slight Wi-Fi signal from that Burger King through the dimensional portal, and I use it to upload a podcast that I record every week here in the tavern, the Vermilion Minotaur, in the town of Hogsface, in the land of Foon. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-hosts.
I am Usador, wizard of the 12th realm of Ephesius, master of light and shadow, manipulator of magical delights, devourer of chaos, champion of the great halls of Tarakis. The elves know me as
Feline Zoic.
The dwarves know me as Zonin and Stanges, and I am known in the Northeast as Gasmanius Maystar. And trust me, friends, there may be other secret projects.
And my other co-host, Chunt.
Hi.
Chunt, the talking badger.
Shapeshifter
who turned into a talking badger. How you doing, Chunt?
I'm doing great. I don't know if you know, Usador knows, today is my birthday.
Oh, yes. Happy
I didn't
birthday,
know.
Choo Choo.
Thank you so much.
What birthday? How old are you?
It's none of your business. I don't want to talk about Chunt stuff.
How rude.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Chunt stuff.
Do you ever have a week on this show where you don't say something rude to one or both of us?
Is it rude to ask how old people are in
Yes, of course it is. You don't never ask a lady her age or a shapeshifter. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, in Foon, you might ask a woman like, hey, how old are you? Are you like 50s? And she'll be like 2,800 years old, and you just feel like a...
Or you might walk up to a lady who has a little bit of extra weight and be like, oh, are you pregnant? Oh, are you a badger? Are you a shapeshifter? It's rude.
Because some people might be cursed. You know.
Yes, exactly. Sure. What if you were magically changed into a badger? You can't change back.
So small talk is really off the table in Foon, in general.
Well, you could talk about the weather, or how the spiced potatoes are today.
Yeah.
Oh, there's all sorts of wonderful small
Could I
things.
get...
Never
you can talk about what
never-
birds you've seen. I enjoy watching birds. I love birds.
So never talk directly about a person. This makes an interview show very difficult. Chunt, how you been? What have you been up to?
Doing well. Choo Choo's Chow is getting off the ground.
That's right, the restaurant that you've started with Usador?
That we have started.
Yeah, we just thought about, we wanted to start offering some deliveries, so we've been experimenting a little bit. We thought at first to maybe have Usador create some tiny horses to like drag the food to people, so like they could, run it out.
Yeah.
And then,
But then the food got dirty.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we decided to try Usador Got Drunk and tried to make the food for a short time sort of come alive.
Oh, wow.
So that it could
Sentient
walk
food.
so it could walk itself.
Exactly.
And here I'll show you. I got a potato here, a spiced potato that we tried this on, and you can tell it's just sort of softly screaming.
Oh,
It's kind of a botched.
I've ever seen. It's not funny at all, Usador. That's depressing.
Look at it scream.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to eat that potato.
No, I'm holding on to this one. This one's my friend.
I have to ask
I call
this.
it gorgeous.
Sean, I don't know that I necessarily want to know the answer to this, but I can already sense the emails that we're going to get asking this question, because a high percentage of the emails we get are people just trying to figure out.
Can you have sex with a potato?
Yes, every obscure rule of your shape-shifting. If you were to have sex with a sentient piece of food, what would happen?
I can honestly say I've never done that, so I do not know. Do you want me to... No, this is my friend. Gorgeous. Gorgeous the potato is my friend.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I
seems
call
like
it gorgeous.
Very
Interesting.
becoming.
This is already starting.
There's already something's happening.
This is a direction that this is heading in.
No, there's nothing. It's not like that, guys. It's just I feel bad for this potato, and I want to have some positive reinforcement, so I call it gorgeous.
Look at it scream.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy, Chunt's gonna have pity sex with this spiced potato.
Probably, yes.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Enough of talking about the sentient potato.
It can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I'll put it away.
All right. Fantastic.
Astonishing Legends. Hosted by Scott Philbrook and Forrest Burgess, their mission is to take a look at legendary, strange, and unusual events from throughout history and interview people who've had close encounters with the unexplained.
Welcome back to Astonishing Legends. I'm Scott Philbrook, and this is Forrest Burgess.
I wonder what awaits us in this hike. Will anything new happen? Zina Kolmogorova, January 23rd, 1959. The last entry in the Dyatlov Party diary the night before they left.
Join us tonight as we retrace the steps of the infamous Dyatlov hiking expedition in Soviet Russia, where 9 hikers died under extremely mysterious circumstances. All right, so covering this story has been one of the most fascinating things I've ever done. I got to be honest, part of the reason that I got into this show and the reason that when we originally started talking about this show, Dyatlov Pass was the number one motivator for me of all the stories that we have in our story folder. For me, it's one of the creepiest things we've ever covered. I don't know why. Just the further I go with it, the more it starts to wig me out, frankly.
Well, the more you learn about it, there's just weirdly unsettling mysteries and things about it that have no answers, and none of it is satisfying.
The brief overview is that in 1959, a group of students, 9 students, set out on a hike, actually 10 originally, set out on a hiking trip because they were seeking a high-level certification as Masters of Sport. And this trip was particularly complex and dangerous, but they were highly experienced. They set out on this trip. They were supposed to return to the city of Vichy, and they were overdue. And when the authorities started looking into it, it turned out they never came back, and they sent out search parties. And eventually, after weeks of searching, they found all 9 of the members that had left. One of them had turned back early on. That's why I said there was 10 originally. All 9 of them had died under very mysterious circumstances. And not only that, they had fled their tent, which appeared to be intact and a safe place to be. And their bodies were found scattered about a mile away from the tent in various states of disarray.
Their ultimate destination was to get to Ortorton Mountain. And I think it was about, 6 miles, over 6 miles further from where they camped last.
Yes. They
Okay.
were on their way, and they should have made it. Now it's where the timeline starts to get a little bit vague because there were no survivors from this point forward. And there's not a clear idea of everything that happened next.
No.
The bottom line is this. They got up to the area that's now known as Dyatlov Pass, and they successfully built their tent on this slope that is kind of out in the middle. There's no trees. There's no nothing. It's more or less, it's not even that steep an angle, the ground that
Well,
they're on.
Scott, I think what happened, though, as good as they were at orienteering and following, directions with map and compass, I think the snow started to pick up pretty heavily, and they got off course. So they ended up making camp there.
They are supposed to return to Vichy, and they did not turn up in Vichy when they were supposed to. Eventually, they set out to search for the Dyatlov party. When the search parties eventually did find the tent, which took several weeks, by the way, they went inside the tent, and the state at which they found things was pretty amazing. And as they looked inside of it, even though it was partially collapsed, what they saw was a very orderly sight. The bottom line is, when they went in the tent, no people. No people in the tent. And not only that, the back wall of the tent was slashed. So now we begin the search for the survivors. At this point, they're like, okay, they've left the tent. They must be around here somewhere.
Well, didn't they find 2 sets of parallel tracks leading away from the tent? And that's really the only thing that they found. But after about, 500 feet or so, they got buried with new fallen snow.
Exactly.
And drifts.
They lost track of them.
Right.
Yeah. The searches had been going on for quite some time. I can't remember what day the tent was found.
I think on February 26th.
They were down by this cedar tree in the edge of the woods, and they saw a knee sticking out of the snow. A group came down to the cedar tree, and when the snow was carefully excavated, they found 2 bodies, both men. The men are lying side by side, not wearing jackets or, for that matter, pants.
Or shoes.
No pants, no shoes, nothing. He lies face down in the snow with his arms folded under his head like a pillow. Next to him, Georgie. He's on his back with his face up. His mouth and eyes have been pecked at by animals.
The other thing is that there's broken branches of the tree, so they think that one of them had climbed up high. Well, there's like 5 meters high.
There's multiple theories as to the tree climbing and the broken branches. One is exactly what you said. Once you get out of that tent in the nighttime, you're screwed. The moon...
On a moonless night.
Yeah, the moon was not going to rise until 4 a.m. If the wind is blowing or howling, which it pretty much could do without warning at any time, if there's snow blowing or whatever, they may have climbed the tree to try to figure out where the tent was. They may have climbed the tree, as some have said, to get away from something that was attacking them.
Right.
The next day, they found 2 more bodies. This was several hours after the first 2. And they were led to the bodies by dogs. They go a few inches below the snow, and they see this arm and then another arm. And then it becomes apparent that the arms are sort of in a defensive gesture. What it turns out to be is that they're not actually defensive. They're clutching this like little birch tree. He's got a watch on his left hand, which is stopped at 5:31. And it appears that his body is suspended in a struggle, that he had been fighting against the elements, like just up until the last moments, because the defensive gesture that some people mistook for like, he's being attacked, was him just hanging on to that tree, maybe trying not to fall down into the snow, like knowing that his last moments were coming. This, by the way, was Igor Dyatlov. The next victim they found that day, who was also found by the dogs, was Zena, who was the person who kept most of the diary entries for the final days. And again, she was just below the surface, laying on her right side, face down with her arms twisted up beneath her. Her face is dark. It has actually dried blood on it. Her right leg is bent as if she had sort of been mid-climb before she collapsed. March 5th. A couple of other volunteers are probing a previously unexplored area. These guys found Rustik Slobodin. He was found laying face down with his right leg bent beneath him and his right fist pulled up to his chest, and he's oriented towards the tent as if he had been working his way up the slope back to the tent.
Well, the others did too. I mean, Igor as well. Like somehow in their last desperate attempts were trying to get back to the shelter of the tent.
Yeah. There was a small hollow near Rustik's mouth, which indicates that when he collapsed, he was alive because the snow melted out from where he was breathing.
Now, was he hitting his head? That was one of them.
Yes, he's the one that it had a blunt force trauma to the front of his head. Okay, so almost 2 months pass before they find the last group of people. Stefan Kirikov, the Mansi, comes across some unusual branches just under the snow in a ravine near the cedar tree. The branches have been cut by a knife.
But they're in a ravine now that's about 75 meters further into the woods than the cedar tree. So whatever was this force,
and this was,
they kept running.
They're all down in the ravine. And 2 of them are embracing each other, and it seems like maybe they were trying to keep each other warm.
Yeah, that's what you do to preserve body heat if you can.
Kolevatov's ankle had been damaged, probably a minor previous injury. He died of hypothermia. Luda is the only initially indefinable body. Her head is pointed upstream. She is the one whose tongue was missing. And there's been
tongue and eyes.
There was forensic information that indicated that she had like 100, I can't remember, grams maybe of coagulated blood in her stomach, indicating that maybe she was alive.
Right.
When that happened.
Oh, my goodness.
That's everybody. The thing to remember is that 6 of them died of hypothermia, according to the results. The 3 people who did not die of hypothermia died under very suspicious circumstances.
Well, yeah, you could say. These people died with massive force trauma.
The equivalent of like a 30-mile-an-hour car crash, I think.
Oh, yeah. It was what you would experience in a car crash, except there was no outward contusions. They're finding the bodies, and they're doing autopsies, but things are not completely adding up.
Before we go any further, let's get to the biggest question.
Yes.
The one question.
It all leads back to...
Why did they leave the tent?
Exactly.
The tent was more or less intact. It was a safe place with food and shelter. What compelled these 9 people, who I think we've painted a pretty good picture of as being super experienced, super intelligent, able to function as a team, very practical, all very loving and caring of each other, what compelled them to all run out of that tent in the dark of a moonless night in the Ural Mountains in separate directions, no less, to what they all had to know was quite possibly certain death?
The only issue I have now is that there are far too many podcasts to keep up with. That is why I wanted to point out a few that I truly enjoy in the hopes that if you hadn't heard of them, you might give them a try. Back in 2007, I saw that the future was in podcasting. Now the future is here, and I have been obsessed with it for years. Thank you for listening to Eclectic Obsessions. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe on iTunes. Leave me a review. All 5-star reviews will be read on the show. You can follow the show on Facebook at Eclectic Obsessions, on Twitter at Eclectic Obsess 1, on Instagram at Eclectic Obsessions Podcast, and on YouTube at Eclectic Obsessions. I'd love to hear what you think. Feel free to email the show at ecobpod@gmail.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a new Eclectic Obsession.